Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and we got a post-album bomb week in the middle of the holidays. Shame it's a total mess. And this, it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. So this might not be the worst time of the year to have a busy week on the Hot 100, but it's absolutely the most obnoxious for me. Not only is it post-album bomb, so you're getting a flood of returns and new arrivals, but there's absolutely no guarantee that any of this sticks around because a bunch are holiday songs, and half are in this weird dead zone of a year where the trends and traction going forward are tough to gauge, especially given that I'm right in the middle of year-end list season, and I could really use the extra time, not spending it on this. And you want to know what's the most annoying? The fact that basically none of this reached the top 10, where for another week, All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey held the number one because in addition to strong streaming, she also has pretty good sales. I mean, at least that's consistent. But you know what? That's true with the next 6 entries here, where thanks to streaming, their positions are completely stable and predictable. Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee at number 2, Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms at number 3, Last Christmas by Wham at number 4, A Holly Jolly Christmas by Burl Ives at number 5, Lovin' on Me by Jack Harlow at number 6. Okay, not a holiday song, but chalk this more up to sales on the radio. But when you follow it with It's the Most Wonderful Time by Andy Williams at number 7, my point at effectively stands. Now the margin gets a little bit shakier when you got Let It Snow by Dean Martin at number 8, and Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano at number 9, Edge Over Sleigh Ride by the Ronettes at number 10. Those are minor shifts at best. Nearly all these are going to be gone in a couple weeks. It doesn't matter that much. And that takes us neatly to our losers and dropouts. And again, I gotta give some credit to this season's recurrency, if nothing else, because it did knock out a couple big hits. Need a Favor by Jelly Roll, Fuck You Mean by Gunna, I Know by Travis Scott, Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen, and, well, okay, I consider Virginia Beach by Drake a big enough hit, even if nobody else does. It counts. And the losers are all basically remnants of last week's debuts, with the exception of Greedy by Tate McRae sliding out of the top 10 down to 19 as her album fades, plus the holiday factor. Might as well also factor in Run for the Hills at 97. Outside of that, it's all Nicki Minaj. Everybody with Lil Uzi Vert at 39, Needle with Drake at 65, and Beep Beep at 74. Now, you would think with her album bomb fading, we would get a lot of returns and a lot of gains, and here's where things get kinda strange, because remember, Nicki Minaj did not have much upper chart impact within the top 50. So the returns we actually did see are holiday songs like This Christmas by Donny Hathaway at 45, and Happy Xmas War Is Over by John and Yoko and the Plastic Ono Band at 48, that last splurge of holiday music. Much lower on the Hot 100, we also saw comebacks for Different Round Here by Riley Green and Luke Combs at 95, and Great Gatsby by Rod Wave back again at 99. But again, this low on the charts, outside of the former maybe getting some Nashville radio support, it's difficult to gauge longevity. It is kind of interesting to look at the gains though, and let's get through the holiday shuffle quickly. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas by Perry Como up big to 14, Run Rudolph Run by Chuck Berry at 27, and Please Come Home for Christmas by the Eagles now at 32. But where this gets interesting and kind of weird is trying to assess what actually has enough momentum to surge when all the holiday music ultimately goes away in a week or two. And I gotta be honest, there might be some potential. For one, Surround Sound by Jid featuring 21 Savage and Baby Tate somehow still has momentum at 61, as does Strangers by Kenya Grace at 66, Get 'Em Back by Olivia Rodrigo at 68, and even Where the Wild Things Are by Luke Combs at 78. That's all really promising for 2024. Now, we aren't so lucky with all of these, and I mostly blame Nashville radio for that. Pretty Little Poison by Warren Zeders up to 59, Truck Bed by Hardy at 72, Save Me the Trouble by Dan and Shay at 73. I might even throw Wild Ones by Jesse Murph and Jelly Roll in there at 67. Hell, given that Morgan Wallen showed up in Drake's new music video for You Broke My Heart, where there was a jump to 70, he might even count too. Outside of all those, well, Standing Next to You by Jungkook actually is stuck around at 79. No idea if it's gotten any sort of tangible traction, but Jungkook has had better longevity on the Hot 100 than I personally expected. I'll give him and his management that. But anyway, we do have a meaty list of new arrivals here, a full dozen of them, and unfortunately we have to start with number 100, One of the Girls by The Weeknd, JENNIE, and Lily Rose Depp.
I just wanna be one of your girls tonight.
And here I thought we would be leaving the idol in 2023, but nope. Thanks to the power of K-pop crossover, months after the show has been canceled, we get this. And honestly, if I were a Blackpink stan, I might be kind of pissed that JENNIE is only here basically for the intro and the bridge repeating it. And if I'm being completely honest, I might actually like this more than Popular, if only because it just has to be a trashy mixtape Weekend era sex jam with the burbling against the chalky but leaden trap percussion and the synths wailing all over the mix. And yeah, the lyrics are explicit and kind of edgy, with the Weeknd attempting to play up the Dom presence until we get the bait and switch that, spoilers, is also echoed in the show. And that kind of makes sense. The Weeknd getting over his head in a toxic relationship, that's kind of an archetype that's worked for a decade now for him. But I think Lily Rose Depp is the weak link on all of this. I don't get any sort of convincing sensuality from her delivery, which is overdubbed to the point of covering any slips in her vocals. And when you factor in the tempo and the overprocessed vocals as a whole, there's no fleshy intensity in the same way that Ilangelo's production used to deliver, or any sort of grit. Again, seeing Sam Levinson having a writing credit on this does not surprise me. The song is closer to being edgy or provocative, but it's more gesturing at the idea rather than actually pulling it off. Overall, just okay at best. Number 96, Winter Wonderland by Khloe.
In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight. We're happy tonight. Walking in a winter wonderland.
Ah yes, we're still in the season of Amazon exclusive Christmas songs, where for some ungodly reason artists sign up for this and I have to renew my Amazon subscription for the day or two required to hear and then grab the necessary song. At least this might be a business expense. Anyway, we got two from this week. The first from Khloe, who, okay, look, I didn't think her solo R&B debut was that good, but she still has a beautiful voice. This is something that she could nail in her sleep. And once I got a handle on that blockier bass line that frankly gives the song a lot more swing to it, I actually like this a decent bit. Khloe is a gorgeous singer who, again, can pull this off in her sleep. And it feels like there was a little bit more effort put into the production and at least a little bit more expense. At the end of the day, Winter Wonderland is in the higher tier of Christmas songs for me personally, and this is a fine enough version. Very solid stuff. I might actually revisit it. Number 94, DJ Play a Christmas Song by Cher.
Dancing all night long. It's cold outside, but it's warm in here, and that's the only thing I want this year.
So, I know the story here is that this is Cher's first charting song in years, if not decades, and she's long been elevated into the elder, legendary diva territory, which probably contributed to why this charted at all from her first ever Christmas album. And okay, there is a part of me that desperately wishes I could embrace this as earnestly as everyone else and not hear the auto-tune as the obvious choice to mimic the persistent lasting success of Believe, along with the glittery synth pulse of that dance groove that probably leaves a few too many grating high frequencies in the mix, and to get around how Cher being in her late 70s, she's starting to sound her age. But you know, the benefit of Cher's voice being so idiosyncratic means that she still wears it pretty well, and while the song definitely feels like a holiday cash-in down to that final key change, she is bringing a lot more energy than she really has to this many decades in. I'm not gonna call this special or well-produced or even all that good, but it is original enough, and Cher's presence in pop isn't that positive, so yeah, fine by me. Number 93, Wondering Why by the Red Clay Strays.
When we lay down tonight, she keeps on loving me, and I keep on wondering why.
Okay, it's starting to get weird when the acts I see reviewed on indie country sites now have a higher than expected average of showing up on the Hot 100, and the Red Clay Strays are one of those groups. An old-fashioned southern rock group out of Alabama, and when I say old-fashioned, I mean a deliberate throwback to the mid-50s, something you would have heard in the era of Elvis Presley or Sun Records, but with little of the stylistic affectations and glamour that tend to surround those throwbacks. With Steven Sanchez, you can tell he's playing into that stylism to evoke the atmosphere, whereas the Red Clay Strays are just confident enough in the stripped-back groove, the sandy drums, and frontman Brandon Coleman's sheer presence to just own a love song for this girl who is plainly out of his league and he's just along for the ride. I mean, I get why this might have caught fire in certain segments of TikTok who aren't familiar with this sound. That being said, I think I respect this song more than I like it. These sorts of deliberate throwbacks, even down to some of the chord progressions, can feel a bit basic, a little set in their ways and limited, and from what I've heard of their live show, it's got way more energy and intensity, and I can kind of buy that given that they self-produced this song and it does show through how spare the mix is. Still, I recognize baseline quality when I hear it. It's cool to see this stuff cross over, generally good. I don't mind this. Number 91, La Victima by Javi.
Antes de que tome la juegues con que ya yo no sé. No te hagas la víctima, tú sabes claramente lo que hiciste.
I was not sure what to expect from Javi. 19-year-old Mexican-American out of Arizona. From what I can tell, he's had a bit of buzz in the industry for a little while, including a record deal on Interscope, and he's also got some TikTok traction with this, and okay. On the one hand, I actually really like the tone and production of this more than a lot of regional Mexican. There's more refinement, the acoustics are warmer and better balanced, and that squonking bass is an interesting texture, and Javi's got some tangible presence. But when you translate the lyrics, it's him ripping into this girl who apparently lied or cheated on him, and he's done giving her chances and doesn't want to see her play the victim, mostly so he can play the victim on the verse where he wants to wallow in misery at some party and then sees her having very clearly moved on. Apparently this did not actually happen to Javi. He was inspired by this happening to a friend, but it's also shockingly obnoxious and it really kind of soured on me. Again, production is good, but I find it with the content a little hard to recommend. Number 88, Mind on You by George Burge.
These four wheels on a two-lane and we cutting through the night. Got your eye in my head and your love on my lips. Girl, I'm hugging on these curves like them jeans on your hips.
It's not a good sign. I've heard more buzz about the independent Red Clay Strays than the newest act out of Nashville backed by Music Row. So enter George Burge, originally part of the duo Waterloo Revival. They had a few very minor radio hits, broke up a couple years ago, and now this song's been crawling up the country radio charts with a TikTok boost since it first dropped in November 2021. And look, I wanted to give Burge some credit for some initial warmer acoustics and the pedal steel, but then all the fizzy layers and the blocky program percussion slipped in alongside the guitars buried midway back and the rap cadences with no personality and all the overprocessed vocals or bargain barrel hookup lyrics that come from the plastic boyfriend country songs that want to get a little bit more hot and heavy and cannot remotely sell it. It just feels incredibly insubstantial. The sort of song chasing where, frankly, Thomas Rhett and Kane Brown were 4 years ago. It's mediocre as hell. I'm gonna forget this exists in record time. Number 85, Lace It by Juice WRLD, Eminem, and Benny Blanco.
All these humans basic, don't got no home training. Codeine by the cases, I've been purple raining.
He's been dead for over 4 years. Why the fuck is anyone still doing this? Now apparently it's for the final Juice WRLD posthumous album, because nobody got the fucking message that the first posthumous album should have been the last, because when you keep going for this long, it makes you out to be milking the legacy for every last drop of cash. But apparently there have been interpolations of this that seem to date as far back as 2018. And it's not like Benny Blanco gives it good production. The clattering percussion, the sloppily mastered bass, barely any melody, where Juice WRLD was once again working the drugs as devil metaphor, along with a lot of half-formed flexing and gunplay, and you could tell exactly why this sat on the shelf for so long. And look, for Eminem, alright look, he has made some shockingly visceral deep cuts about addiction and overdose, especially on his first underrated comeback album, Relapse, with a song like Deja Vu. And this verse really does not break outside that mold. Outside of M listing so many rappers and artists who have died from drug overdoses in recent years, and he's professing that he's not lecturing, he's just being honest about the risk. His verse is probably the song's saving grace, but I also know he has done this better, and it just drives me nuts seeing his sincere connection with Juice WRLD get exploited like this. So no, not recommended. You aren't saving it. Number 84, Never Lose Me by Flo Milli.
You'll never wanna lose me. Tell me 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 you'll never wanna lose me.
Well, about damn time we got something from Flo Milli on the Hot 100. I felt like I was late to Flo Milli last year reviewing her album, but apparently it would take her another year and a half to properly cross over with a song from her newest EP, where RCA finally pulled their heads out of their asses and decided to promote her properly. And shame this is just not very good, and rather it just doesn't feel it's all that special outside of actually a pretty high quality trap beat against the whistling melodic touches. Maybe it's that hook that feels weirdly desperate, ever so slightly off beat too. Maybe it's the content playing to brand name flexing and some sex talk where I really wish more intensity came through. Like with her full-length debut, I'm starting to get the nauseating feeling that RCA wants her to be the next Doja Cat, and while Flo Milli's a good singer, sandblasting the rest of her personality away is a really big mistake. I mean, you already have Lotto for that. As for this, I mean, it's okay, I guess. It's not special. Number 83, Crazy by Lil Baby.
Crazy. Yeah. I know what I'm doing, they call me crazy. Know what I'm doing, they call me crazy. I know what I'm doing, they call me crazy. Know what I'm doing, they call me crazy.
I remember back in 2020 when I was still mostly lukewarm on Lil Baby, unconvinced that his hype would last beyond the moment due to how repetitive his content and production was becoming, and I got an annoying number of people citing so much potential. He'd seen his breakthrough, he could easily be the next big thing. And we're now 3 years later, and it feels like the hype has dissipated considerably. Maybe some of it has to do with the Gunna situation, we're not getting into that. But here, a new single, and look, I don't see the hype anymore. Yeah, the piano line is good, but Lil Baby just cannot find a pocket with this faster trap percussion and makes his flow come across as really sloppy and offbeat, really just inconsistent, because there are moments where he sounds fine and in pocket, but it rarely lasts. Then there's the content. Look, I have heard this aspirational flex paired with the whole more money, more problems from Lil Baby for years now, and without much in the way of distinctive detail or storytelling, it's just really forgettable. Maybe that's the reason it feels like the hype has cooled on Lil Baby for me. I will probably just forget this in record time. Number 81, Jingle Bells by Meghan Trainor.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh,
Alright, second Amazon song. And honestly, if there's gonna be a pop act who hops on the Christmas bandwagon, Meghan Trainor doing her early pop throwback, it at least makes sense. But that's not what she did. What in the nine hells even is this? Like with Khloe, the percussion's been ramped up for some sort of clattering swagger, but the horns sound like ass, like they came from a tin can, and the backing vocal mix is weirdly hollow, made even worse by the fact that this is barely even a full performance of Jingle Bells. Just the first verse before Trainor rattles through spelling the word jingle multiple times. It's got the feel of Meghan Trainor trying to switch something up, do something new, especially given how often her child's giggle peppers the mix. But come the fuck on, you're covering Jingle Bells for fucking Amazon. They don't need your chopped and screwed version that's got no coherent tone and sounds like ass. This is a shocking disaster, even from Meghan Trainor, once again reinforcing that Amazon should do everyone a favor, not waste our time or their money platforming these exclusives ever again. The Khloe song was good. This is awful. Number 76, La Diabla by Javi.
Eres niña mala, se nota mi amor, eres una diabla. Mira cómo baila.
Okay, maybe just got off on the wrong foot with Javi. Round two's the charm, where there's even less of a song with a single verse and two choruses. But hey, again, the acoustics, they sound better, and they pick up a unique cascading presence that feels different against the loose bass gallop. And the kid clearly has talent and presence. And you know what? The writing's actually better this time. It is playing the hot girl as a devil card, but he's also very clearly into that, which is a nice swerve away from the usual melodrama with this trope. In other words, I actually like this a decent bit, especially as you can tell more of a production budget was pushed behind this around the more atmospheric outro. I'm intrigued. I want to hear more. Good stuff. And finally, number 71, Bellakeo by Peso, Pluma, and Anitta. Okay, full disclosure, I don't know how much longevity Peso Pluma will have. He certainly seems to have a wider frame of influences, and that might help weather industry trends more effectively, but seeing him with Anitta gave me some pause. Maybe I haven't done a deep enough dive on her work yet. I know Versions of Me got a lot of praise in certain circles last year, but I also remember not caring too much for Involver when I covered it last year, and I just never got around to the album. So with this, okay, it hits an odd note, I'll say that. I've not been crazy about Peso Pluma hopping on reggaeton grooves, but this production feels more interesting with the rougher percussion and those quaking synths constantly on the verge of a breakdown. There's a blocky instability that seems to be implying things are going off the rails, which you actually see reflected in the lyrics, with Anitta getting very heated at her man and then going out with the girls to aggressively flirt, and Peso Pluma playing the baller to egg her on, where the out-of-nowhere gunshot sound makes the menace at least a little bit more palpable. But I don't know. Peso Pluma and Anitta don't exactly have much chemistry. The hook feels more basic than it really should be, a lot more repetitive too. And I feel like we got a strong setup to the story, even an attempted climax, but a bit of a weak conclusion. I don't know, I get the feeling this might grow on me if it sticks around, but as it is, whatever. Not bad. But that's our week. God, it's long and messy to boot. At least the worst of the week falls out quickly, with Meghan Trainor's god-awful cover of Jingle Bells running away with that, while Lace It by the late Juice WRLD, Eminem, and Benny Blanco is getting dishonorable mention. Sorry, Em, a good verse is not saving that. Now the best, I guess Winter Wonderland by Khloe feels like the obvious choice. It's certainly the one with the most talent behind it. But I think La Diabla by Javi is a pretty good honorable mention. I mean, the choice is kind of shaky. What can I do? Next week, tough to gauge. It might be more transitional and quiet as the holidays wrap up. Stay tuned, I guess. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.